The college football bracket is out. And looking at it right now, I think all the teams in and where they're in, I think is what most people thought, especially what happened between Clemson and SMU in the ACC title game. When I even said it here on the channel, if SMU lost by one score in a last-second field goal, a last-second touchdown, they would get into the college football playoffs still, even over Alabama. That is what happened. That is what should have happened. They didn't hurt any team that lost in the conference championship like a Georgia, a Texas, like a Penn State. They didn't hurt any of those teams. I think they did that on purpose because they can't hurt that game for media rights wise. It's a big, big time media deal for these networks, and they need that game. So I don't think the committee was able to hurt that game year one of this process. So I think they barely even moved those teams on purpose, that being Texas getting a 5. I look at the bracket and I see instantly Penn State, easy draw to a semifinal. You get SMU, which you should beat. And then you get Boise State on a neutral, which you should be even bigger of a favorite. So this is an easy draw here for Penn State, probably the easiest draw out of any team. And then I look at Texas and I say, if they get through Clemson, which they should, they have a very easy draw. Because you could argue again then their second game against Arizona State is an easier game than Clemson. So that's an easy draw. I look at Georgia. I don't see the hardest draw in the world. Of course, Carson Beck might be injured. It looks like a UCL, something with the UCL, maybe a tear, maybe he needs Tommy John, which is not good. It's probably similar to that Brock Purdy injury he suffered in the championship game. I think it was now 2 years ago. But other than that, I don't see the hardest draw. Like, Indiana can beat Notre Dame. They can be better than Notre Dame. I don't think anyone can say they're not better than Notre Dame. I think there's a chance they could be. And I think Georgia is better than both those teams. So I think Georgia has a good chance to get to the semifinal. And you look at Oregon, who has the hardest path to the championship with having to play the winner of Ohio State or Tennessee. I think it's a little unfair. And a lot of people have commented on this, but you much rather have the bye than having to play two games. Because look at Georgia. They lost their quarterback. Look at Florida State 2 years ago. They lost their quarterback to North Alabama, which was the worst team on their schedule. They lost their starting quarterback, who was the heart and soul of that team and really was the reason why they had such a good season that year. So you want the bye always. It's just unfortunate that the path is the path, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. I look at this bracket, and the problem I have with this bracket is the format. I didn't have a problem with it prior, but now I do have a problem with the format. And I think there is a way we could do this better, and I've thought about this a lot. Listen to this. And this would have made the games way better. This would have made the bracket way better. If you're a conference champion, you only get a bye if you're in the top 8. Okay? That would have been way better. Okay, so then the byes, instead of being Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, Arizona State, it would have been Oregon, Georgia, because they would have been the two conference championships inside the top 8. And then the 3 and the 4 would have then just been the next best two teams of Texas and Penn State. That would have been a way better top 4 byes here. And then, if you're a conference champion and you're ranked between 9 and 12, you automatically get a home game. You have to automatically get a home game somewhere in the bracket. I think that makes so much more sense, because then the bracket would have been the 5 versus the 12, which would have been Notre Dame versus Clemson, which would have been made way more sense. The winner of that game would have played Penn State. I think that makes so much more sense. Then the 6th seed would have been Ohio State, and they would have played the 11th seed, which would have been the SMU Mustangs. And they would have gone on to play the 3 seed of the Texas Longhorns. That makes way more sense. And then the 7th seed, though, would have been Boise State, because they're ranked 9th, and they have to get a home game. So they would become the 7th seed, and they would be playing the 10th seeded Indiana Hoosiers. The winner would play the number 2 ranked Georgia. I think that makes a lot more sense. And then the 8 versus 9 game would be 8 Arizona State, because they would have to get a home game. They would be the 12th ranked team, so they would have to get a home game. They would be the 8th seed, and they would play the 9th seeded Tennessee Volunteers. Winner would play Oregon. Like, that bracket right there that I just said is way better than this. Just at a competitive nature, it's way better. And I think that's what kind of bracket we're going to have to use and look at moving forward. As we go on to more and more years of this, I think we will get more teams in. I think we are going to go to 4 teams just so we make sure Bama can get in. because they would have been 13. Miami would have been 14. So I think we might see a 14 playoff team here. Who wins and why? And why do I think so? Like, I look at this bracket, and the most guaranteed thing I can see here is Penn State will be in a semifinal. Now, who will Penn State play in the semifinal? I think it's going to be Georgia. And when you get to Georgia, Penn State at a neutral site, I don't know what Georgia's quarterback situation is. I think that is the most likely game. I still think Georgia's just a little bit better than Penn State. And I could be wrong, and Penn State could win that game, and it would be crazy if Penn State got to a national championship. But I think 100% healthy, Georgia's a better team, so I think Georgia gets through on that side. But I'm not overly like enjoyed about it, especially when Notre Dame can beat this team now without Carson Beck. So it could be a team like Notre Dame to get to a national championship. I look at the other side, and it's a gauntlet. I see Texas. I think Texas is going to get to the semifinal, and it's going to be some kind of combination of Oregon, Ohio State, Tennessee on the other side of them. Most likely going to be Oregon/Ohio State. Now, I think Tennessee can beat Ohio State, and it depends on what morals, what head length, what mental ability is Ohio State at right now to be competing in a high-level game like this after losing embarrassingly to Michigan, and potentially your head coach now already getting calls that he's going to be on his way out. So what kind of mental ability is Ohio State at right now? I don't know if a lot of people know. I think it's going to be Oregon. I think it's going to be Texas, Oregon, and I lean Texas, but Oregon can win. I think Oregon can win, and I think if we get a Texas-Georgia final, I think Texas will finally get their revenge and defeat Georgia and win a national championship. If we get Oregon versus Georgia, I think Oregon can win as well. So I think Texas-Oregon would be pretty much the game there, and I got one of those teams winning it all here to win a national championship. This is the bracket. I'm excited. We start in 2 weeks. Hopefully it's fun. I don't know if this bracket is going to be fun all the way through because of the way the seeding is working. I think my bracket, the way I said, should be the way we do this moving forward. I think it's way more fun. Yeah, ultimately, my name is Josh Wissey. If you like college football, I promise it's a channel for you. So hit that subscribe button. It should be a little icon. It might be over here. It's on one side. It's a little circle thing. You just press that. You hit subscribe. Watch these videos that YouTube recommends. And here's my playlist of all my college football videos I made on the season so far. You guys have popped off on the last couple. So I appreciate that so much. My name's Josh Wissey. Thank you.